Well, we've just continued on our markers here at the mighty 8th Air Force Museum. You can see the museum is behind me, and we've learned about this reflection pool that is also behind me from in honor of Benton Love. And so let's continue looking at additional markers, and we'll see what else there is to learn about all of these mighty men. It says the reflection pool is dedicated in honor of Benton F. Love Jr., captain of the 351st Bombardment Group, 8th Air Force, from April 8th, 1944 to December 10th, 1945. Benton F. Love Jr. was a native of Texas, and he volunteered for service in the Army Air Corps in November of 1942. He served with the 351st Bomb Group at Polebrook Air Base in Northampton, England. And at age 19, Ben flew as one of the few elite lead navigators, being responsible for leading the entire bomb group to the target of the day. He completed 25 combat missions over an 8-month period of combat duty. Here is a statue of him. So there's Benton F. Love. And then if we turn around, there's the reflection pool. This marker is dedicated to the 801st 492nd Bomb Group, Carpetbaggers. So these are the men and supporting units of the Carpetbaggers. This is the 8th Air Force in memory of those who served the Florida chapter, 8AF Historical Society. This is in grateful remembrance of Connecticut veterans who served and those who gave their lives defending our nation by serving in the mighty 8th Air Force, U.S. Army Air Force, European Theater of Operations between 1942 and 1945. There are a bunch of markers on the wall here. I'm not going to go over every one. It looks like we have Liberty Shack, Sullivan's Crew, Hell's Angels, Glacier's Crew, Betty's Revenge, Miss Manuki, Made to Order, Snuffy, Tracy's Crew, the Crew of Stinky, Ice Cold Katie, Troublemaker, Hanson's Crew, the 2nd Bomb Division, the Eagles Brood, Duchess Granddaughter Crew, Garrico's Combat Crew, the Dunham Crew, Perry's Pirates, My Norma, 305th Bomb Group, Lonesome Polecat, the Duchess, Lazy Daisy, Burke's Crew, so you can pause and look at these as needed. So here's another wall of markers. Once again, I'm not going to read every one of them. You can see things like Dirk's Mixture, Shield's Crew, Kirk's Crew, Butler's Bums, the Goosey Lucy, the Swanee Pride, Bad Time Inc., the Diabolical Angel, Old D-Dog's Crew, Jill's Jalopy, and then more of just name after name after name on another wall here. There are several areas out here with just names after names after names on the walls. You would need to come to see all the various names that are out here, but they are just so many of them. This one is for the 7th Photo Recon Group, the Eyes of the Mighty 8th Air Force, in memory of the 68 brave men who made the supreme sacrifice. This is Hell's Angels, mighty in flight, the 303rd Bombardment Group Heavy. This is a round one. Got a bunch of names on it. This was for the 803rd Bombardment Group Association, Hell's Angels. Here's the Georgia chapter of the 8th Air Force Historical Society. This is the 56th Fighter Group of England from 43 to 45. Here's the 479th Fighter Group. Lest we forget, 20th Fighter Group. This is the Tennessee Chapter 8th Air Force Historical Society. Many of Tennessee's young men in World War II became airmen of the greatest air armada on earth. This is the 8th Air Force in honor of Southern Carolinians who served in the mighty 8th Air Force. This one is the World War II 8th Air Force 446th Bomb Group, the D-Day Leaders, the Bungay Buckaroos. This one talks about the Base Air Depot No. 2 Station, 582, United States Air Force, Wharton, England. So the Bad to Wharton, England was established under the 8th Air Force Service Command September the 5th, 1942. Its mission, the modification and repair of military aircraft, warplanes coming from the United States, would be adapted to meet special requirements of the European theater of operations. The battle-damaged aircraft would have to be repaired, perhaps whole sections rebuilt. A ferrying squadron was needed to get planes to Wharton from fields where they originally landed and later delivered to combat units. By summer of 1944, there were 10,000 Americans at Wharton working around the clock. 29 Whartoners gave their lives for their country. On August 23, 1944, two recently repaired B-24 Liberator bombers were on test flights. Word came from Brigadier General Isaac Ott's headquarters of an impending storm. All planes were ordered to land immediately. The pilots attempted to, but the storm was of such intensity it was impossible. Witnesses saw the plane piloted by Lieutenant John Blomendel struck by lightning. It crashed into a school in the village of Freckleton. 61 persons died, including 38 5-year-old children trapped in the nursery classroom. A second plane was driven almost to the ground and flew 10 miles at treetop level before getting out of the storm. 5 children were pulled out of the burning classroom. 2 died at the base hospital. At that time, this was the second worst crash in aviation history. Okay, this explains that BAD stands for Base Air Depot. And these are people that were involved in it, and talks about the bomber crash that we just read about. And we have our flag flying above. It says, "My best friend Sully," in lasting tribute to Flight Lieutenant Leroy Means Sullivan, an American airman. And there's a second little flag down here. Then here's a bench in silent tribute to the blue-nosed bastards of Bodney. The 352nd Fighter Group, 1st Service Group. This is dedicated to the Reverent Remembrance of those gallant airmen of the 457th Bombardment Group Heavy, United States 8th Army Air Force. It's a marker for the 392nd Bomb Group, 8th Air Force, U.S. Army Air Forces. Here's the Mississippi chapter of the 8th Air Force Historical Society in honor of the many Mississippians who served so valiantly in the mighty 8th Air Force. This marker is for the 379th Bombardment Group Heavy. Various assignments and combat record. As you can see, there are just so many markers after marker after marker in this area. 351st Bombardment Group Heavy, 8th United States Army Air Force. 491st Bombardment Group Heavy. Just so many markers. Here's one of the aircraft that they have here. If you wonder why it's so noisy in the area, well, we're literally right beside a highway. This one is the Boeing B-47 Stratojet. I'm not going to read all this. I got a beeping in the background, but you can pause and read all the information about the B-47. Then they have this little Vietnam War memorial right outside the chapel that they have here on the grounds. Chapel of the Fallen Eagles. And some little plaques on the wall. Transatlantic Brides and Parents Association. And then the chapel itself. Beautiful windows. Love the architecture in here. The woodwork is just incredible. This is a Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17A. Introduced in 1951, the MiG-17 remained a frontline duty with many Warsaw Pact countries and their client states well into the 1980s. Developed too late for the Korean War, the MiG-17 saw action in Vietnam and in several of the African and Middle Eastern conflicts of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This version of the MiG-17 is fitted with a Klimov VK-1 engine, a Soviet copy of the Rolls-Royce Nini turbojet. This is the McDonnel F-4C Phantom. A masterpiece of engineering, the F-4 was originally designed for use on board Navy aircraft carriers. In 1962, the Air Force adopted a ground attack version of the F-4 after it had easily outperformed its F-406 in head-to-head competition. The F-4 achieved legendary status in Vietnam, scoring 277 combat victories, including the first and last air victories of the conflict. There's the rest of the marker. And then the mighty aircraft. Outside of the Mighty 8th Museum in Pooler, there are a couple of other markers, and here is Sherman at Pooler. On December 9th, 1864, troops of Mower's Division, 17th Corps of General Sherman's Army, which was closing in on Savannah, advanced to Pooler after suffering losses through the day from artillery mounted on a railroad flat car, torpedoes planted on the roads, and the stubborn resistance of Confederate infantry. By evening, Pooler had been seized, and a strong line had been established astride the railroad on the road passing by the depot. An advance line was constructed about 300 yards farther east. That night, General Sherman and General Blair, 17th Corps, established headquarters in Pooler about 300 yards west of the depot, the former on the north side of the road. This marker is for Pooler Station with the elevated tent camps. March to the Sea Heritage Trail on Friday, December 9th, 1864. The more than 11,000 troops of Union Major General Francis P. Blair, Jr.'s 17th Corps approached Pooler Station No. 1 on the Central Railroad. Major General William T. Sherman noticed a column of soldiers marching in a field rather than in the road. Upon inquiring, he learned that a horse carrying an officer in the Federal 1st Alabama Cavalry Regiment had stepped on a torpedo landmine in the road, killing the horse and blowing a foot off the cavalryman. This was not war, but murder, Sherman later wrote, and it made me very angry. By his order, Confederate prisoners were made to walk in the road with picks and shovels to explode their own torpedoes or to discover and dig them up. 10 more were found, but none exploded. Sherman and the 17th Corps reached and made camp at Pooler later that day. Savannah was only 9 miles away. Desiring to get a close look at Savannah's defenses, the next morning General Sherman rode forward with his staff on the Louisville Road. They stopped in a dense wood of oak, pine, and cypress, the location of Tom Triplett Community Park. Standing in a railroad cut, Sherman looked toward Savannah and saw a Confederate artillery battery about 800 yards away. He later wrote, "I could see the cannoneers preparing to fire and cautioned the officers near me to scatter, as we would likely attract a shot. Very soon I saw a white puff of smoke, and watching close, caught sight of the ball as it rose in its flight, and finding it coming pretty straight, I stepped a short distance to one side. However, a black man crossing the track was struck in the head and killed as the cannonball ricocheted off the ground. Sherman surmised we all concluded to get out of that railroad cut." After Major General Joseph A. Mower's division of the 17th Corps found a continuous Confederate trench line a mile to the south, General Sherman determined a siege of Savannah was inevitable. He made camp in these woods from December 10th through the 15th, planning his army's further actions. Hundreds of small mounds are still in the woods around the park, made by Federal soldiers to keep their tents, cooking sites, and pathways out of the water that collected when Confederates flooded the surrounding rice fields. During the next 2 days, the other 3 infantry corps in General Sherman's army reached the area. The 20th Corps reached the Savannah River on the Army's left. The 14th Corps continued south to its right. The 17th Corps stretched from the area of the Savannah and Ogeechee Canal to west of Dean Forest Road and Salt Creek, while the 15th Corps was positioned further south to the Little Ogeechee River. Savannah was completely invested by December 12, 1864. Okay, we have now finished up with all of the markers here that we're going to show from this place. There are probably some markers that I missed along the way, but there are just so many walls and walls like the one behind me with marker after marker after marker. So hopefully you can stop by sometime and take a look here, like, subscribe, and let us know what you'd like to see in the future. And we're going to continue on with more historical markers.